What is going on? Welcome back to the channel. So today I want to talk to you about Lucid. I want to go over some expectations for this upcoming week, what might cause some volatility in the stock price, and go over everything else you need to know. But first, make sure you guys hit that thumbs up. And with that, let's get right to it. So this upcoming week is going to be another roller coaster. And so you do have a lot of big data points coming out. Starting off on Monday, ISM manufacturing. Current forecast for that is 49. 50 is going to be a big benchmark. So if it is able to close above 50, that shows that the market is in a expansionary stage, which is fairly good. Flip side, if it does close a little bit or comes in a little bit lower than the 49, then the market might freak out a little bit. But you also do have a lot of Fed speakers throughout the week, so depending on what they kind of bring up, that could also kind of move the market. Jolt numbers on Tuesday. You do have ISM services, ADP employment on Wednesday, and then as well on Friday, non-farm payroll and unemployment. So a lot of big data points. And then in addition, Thursday, exports, imports. So that might be a little bit more of a triggering thing to Trump in reality. And then aside from all of that though, you have Trump talking on tariffs. So the market is going to be digesting the increase in steel from 25 to 50. I already did a video yesterday all about that, where I feel directly, it should not affect Lucid. Indirectly, it might. So again, you might have some volatility associated to that. I believe that they are actually meeting with Pakistan government and government body or whatever they are for trade. So we might have some trade agreements coming this week, but I think at the end of the day, the market is only going to care about the EU, and it seems as though that's going to be off the table most likely up until July. So that is going to be a big one. And then just more clarity and hopefully a reduction in back and forth between the States and China. So all of that is going to impact Lucid. Aside from that though, you have these companies unveiling their earnings. Nothing overly crazy. So you have one EV, that is NIO, Tuesday morning, but given the circumstances, like they're completely polar opposites. So even if NIO kind of says that, hey, we don't have sufficient demand, China's their own separate beast. So I don't feel any company here could potentially move the market, and through that, Lucid. As far as some expectations from Lucid, they do have their shareholder meeting coming up. So that is going to be on June the 5th right here. 4 proposals. So this one is the directors. This one is reaffirming the accounting firm KPMG. I did a video a week ago on how there was some FUD associated to this accounting firm. So if you believe that this is something maybe you don't like or don't want to see them associated to Lucid, then you can definitely vote, do what you need to do and all that fun stuff. Point number 3 is for compensation. And then point number 4 is for the stock incentive plan. So let me know your thoughts on that. If necessary, I can live stream this if that floats your boat or whatever else. I'm not really that keen on kind of caring about the directors. Any company ever doing a shareholder meeting where it involves a reverse stock split, raising of authorized shares, that's more speculative and kind of touchy. That one I kind of tune into. These ones are, in my opinion, nothing really crazy. One thing though I do want to bring up, which is rather interesting, I honestly haven't seen anyone kind of talking about it yet, but if we pop over here and look at the directors that's being proposed, you don't see Peter Rawlinson. So he legitimately was fired. Obviously not directly, was just given this fake consulting position, and he's just being told to pretty much stay in the corner for, I think it was 2027 if I remember correctly. Quote me if I'm wrong about that, but nonetheless, interesting to see that he is no longer on the board of directors. So kind of, yeah, that may be something to keep in mind. As far as this goes, so this is the upcoming events. Nothing really crazy except for this. This one was newly added, and it does show Lucid Studio event, June the 7th. Visit your local Lucid studio on Saturday, June 7th to experience the thrill of driving a Lucid Air and share in the excitement of electric mobility with our community. Schedule a one-on-one demo drive below between 12 to 4. So that is interesting. And it says all North American Lucid studios. So if I knew any better, I would say that is where all the maybe Gravity test drives are going to be commencing. Again, I don't believe I've seen anything on social media, no official news from Lucid, so maybe this is a little bit premature, but yeah, that could be a pretty big catalyst in my opinion if they again were to put out news. So that might be coming out June the 7th. Aside from all that though, the only thing I've seen on social media was this. So again, going to show that Lucid is loved in Saudi Arabia as part of their Vision 2030. So definitely they're doing that. So that's pretty good. At this stage in the game, I don't really see this being a good catalyst to buy Lucid because I think the market's already incorporated all this, but still it's a good FYI. Going into this upcoming week though, 30.86% of the free float is being shorted. Works out to be 380.6 million shares overall being shorted. Shorts did increase on Friday, 1.52 million shares. Cost to borrow average 2.31%. Utilization 100%. So there's a lot of big things, as I mentioned this week, that shorts could easily double down on. And it's a very weird scenario, right? So we've had over the last 5 days, Lucid go down 14%. Huge, immense amount of volume. You can kind of see it right down here on this chart. This is like insane volume. Even on Friday, 259 million shares being traded, and ultimately the day prior was 262. So as I've kind of mentioned, something is up. Someone is selling, or Lucid could be diluting, because they do have that active S3 that is out there that was issued, I believe it was in 2023. And that shelf offering is essentially good for 3 years, and during of which they do not have to let anyone know whatsoever that they are diluting. So that's kind of the negative side of that. But then again, they've followed the book. They've done everything, submitting the S3. So this could be, like I said, either dilution happening behind the scenes or big institutions selling for whatever reason. Again, there isn't any news. There was that one analyst kind of chirping up, but that was pretty much it. Looking at the options, so based on the bulls, they are anticipating for it to be roughly around that 250 for this week. Bears are anticipating for it to be sub $2. This is the open interest. So given where it did close, you had 429 in the money options. So that's not going to cause anything. Looking into this upcoming week, you have 5,000 at that 250, 19,000 at that 3. So if Lucid was to gain some momentum, get close to that 3, this is where you could see shorts try to suppress it below that point. But given where and what happened with Lucid on Friday, it is honestly excessively oversold. And the last time and a couple times that it's actually been like this, it does actually cause it to go higher. And I actually did post one thing as well on Twitter, potentially on why it might be going down. So I posted this. So Lucid currently has negative 457,000 in delta. So I kind of went over a explanation right here on what that means. So whenever you have negative delta, this is where essentially shorts are selling more stock, adding more and more selling pressure. So it is kind of a weird scenario, but as you can kind of see, there is a huge, immense amount of negative delta. So I think it's just a very weird scenario. So options could be potentially the culprit behind all this, and market makers are somewhat being forced to sell Lucid. Just again, maybe a very weird type of scenario, but yeah, honestly, what's been happening is putting Lucid either like at a screaming buying opportunity, or something very, very negative is about to come out. But in my opinion, like if you believe in Lucid bigger picture, like last couple of days are laughable, like huge opportunities to buy, because bigger picture, obviously people are going to be wishing that they bought more at these stages. But if you're one of those individuals, value investor, or trying to catch the bottom, there could be a little bit more of a pullback. And at the same time, Lucid did break recently below that 50-day moving average, and that usually does historically result in like a 30% swing in either direction, right? So I guess for face value, factoring that in, it could get to kind of around that $2 range, but with it closing on Friday at 223, it is trading between this S2 and this S3. So 221 is going to be absolutely that line in the sand, and that was the bottom on Friday. So on Monday. If that does fail to hold, then you can anticipate roughly around that 173. So the technicals would definitely full on be breaking down, and that would be crazy. That would be essentially lower than what happened in April. And so yeah, I think at the end of the day, Lucid is going through and is just massively manipulated, but they are growing. And clearly, based on some of these kind of things that are coming out, such as this Lucid Studio event, there is stuff happening behind the scenes. We just need a little bit more from Lucid itself. So let me know your thoughts on Lucid. So in my opinion, I do feel that we might actually break below this 221 either in the first couple trading days, but in the later part, it is going to recover and close between this S2 and this S3. So I don't see a crazy recovery. I honestly see some people on social media saying it's getting to like $4 next week. I have no idea how that's going to come, unless there's some crazy catalyst that does pop up that causes a huge buying opportunity for Lucid. But in my opinion, and more realistically, I do feel like it will be closing between this S2 and this S3. If for any reason Trump does come out with some good deals or maybe some kind of rectifying issues with China, then you might see a little bit more of a push higher, possibly to this S1 to this S2. But regardless, there's a lot of big data points this week that could cause some volatility. So like I said, I do feel in the early part of the week, you will see it briefly below this 221, but anything's possible. Let me know your thoughts on Lucid. Have you been buying the dip? Did you get really freaked out and sell? What's your general thoughts? And throw your price predictions where you feel Lucid is going to be going by the end of the week in the comments below. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. I always greatly appreciate that. One final thing, pop over to my Patreon. I give buy signals on stocks, options, crypto, many of which have been absolutely on point. So definitely worthwhile to pop over there and take a look. With all that said, appreciate all of you watching.